I mean, what can I say about the movie that you're gonna hear about that you guys don't already know, right? I'm sure. How many fans of Pan's Labyrinth do we have here? How crazy is it that it's 20 years? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. We're really excited for this panel, and I, from the sound of it, I know you guys are too. We're very excited about Guillermo being here. I think that's very cool. But I think let's get right into it. And with that, it is my pleasure to bring out the moderator of this panel, Mr. Stephen Weintraub with Collider.
How's everyone doing? Ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to be moderating this panel. I love this film so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Guillermo, I'm just going to do the introduction. Guillermo Navarro, Ivana Baquero, Doug Jones, and Guillermo del Toro.
What the fuck? You had to start with cussing, didn't you?
One of my favorite memories of Comic-Con was I was in the audience. I don't even know how many years ago it was, but you're always the best on panels, but it was in a small room, maybe like ballroom 6.
That was a toilet.
It was like room 6A, B, C. It was so long ago, and you were telling a story, and you're like, and that is when my balls dropped.
That was a ballroom.
Right. So listen, I can't believe it's been 20 years since Pan's Labyrinth. I'm so excited to be talking to you guys about this, and also I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming out.
It says don't curse. Sorry.
And by the way, do you notice all the phones and all the people?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So it's now been 20 years. Pan's Labyrinth is widely considered one of the greatest films of the 21st century. For each of you, at what point in the production did you realize you were making something special?
When we had a lot of adversity in the movie, it's the second most difficult movie to shoot I've ever gone through. And a lot of the crew was very skeptical, and they would see a Faun come in the middle of a Civil War movie, and they were saying, this fat guy is crazy. But I remember the first time I knew is we were shooting The Pale Man, and The Pale Man did this, and the whole crew went, I said, see? But it changed.
Realize something. Before you guys continue answering, if you don't mind, I forgot. We actually have a trailer for the 20th anniversary. If we could run that right now.
Yes. Dinner and a movie.
Doug, would you like to continue answering my original question? When did you realize?
When I read the script, honestly, and I'm not kidding about that, Guillermo sent me a script in the English translation, and I didn't realize it was going to be in Spanish. That's another issue altogether. But I was reading the script, and he said, "Get back to me by 11 o'clock tonight." So I read the most beautiful story I'd ever read in my life, and I closed the last page, I wiped a tear and said, "Oh my gosh." And this is my third film with Guillermo, after meeting him on Mimic and then doing Hellboy 1 together. Thank you. I knew that this is the man who could bring those pages that he had written to life on screen with exactly, I knew then it was going to be a masterpiece.
Yeah, I think for me it started with the script too, but funny enough, I actually got asked the other day, what did it feel like when you read the script for the first time? And I don't actually remember because I was 11 years old, but what I do remember is my father, who's a cinephile, he read the script, and I remember I was up between pans, and there was another project circling me too, and he read the script, and he was like, this is a really special movie, this is the one, this is gonna be magic. And my dad immediately saw it when he read the script, so we knew we were in for something special. Obviously, I was a child, I didn't realize how big of a movie it would then go on to be, but we all knew that it was going to be something special, and I could see everyone fighting so hard to get the movie made that I think early on we realized we were making something really special.
Guillermo?
Well, for me, working in Pan with my brother Del Toro was an extraordinary experience, and we put to test this movie of several narratives and color coding, and now 20 years after, it proves to be still very relevant. We're still fighting dictatorships, and we still have things to believe in, and we have to carry on. So Pan's Labyrinth is very alive, and all of you involved.
I should also point out, if you're not familiar with Guillermo Navarro, he is the Oscar-winning cinematographer of Pan's Labyrinth.
And my stunt double.
So one of the things that I'm really excited about with the 20th anniversary is seeing the film in 3D. And the reason I'm want to see it in 3D is because I know you personally did the conversion yourself with human hands, no AI, like completely you. And so, can you talk about what you did to make sure that that people want to see this in 3D?
Well, first of all, the way we shoot and the way I've been shooting all my life is there's always foreground, crossing, coming to the lens, going away from the lens. So when we converted Pacific Rim to 3D, the way to see that movie, if you ever have a chance, is IMAX 3D. It's a different movie. And the same company, I said, why don't we try to do a test? Now, Cineverse and I are paying for the conversion. So I said, let's see. I think we can make it so that it's expressively powerful. So the real world is a little flatter, and the fantasy world has a huge depth. So thematically it will add to the movie. I was honestly not expecting how it was going to affect me seeing it. It's incredible. It really, really changes. We're going to show it tonight here in Comic-Con here and there. But when we go into the Bailman or the Toad, it becomes, when I was a kid, I used to have a Viewmaster.
Yes.
And that was my favorite thing, to lay on the ground and look at the Viewmaster against the sky. And it has such an incredible depth. And I think that we always color-coded and shape-coded. The real world is cold and straight lines and blah, blah, blah. And the light is a lot more cold. And then the fantasy world has warmth and uterine colors, and it has rounded shapes. Well, this adds to that. And the conversion, since we're paying, obviously I said, absolutely no goddamn AI. I said I want it done. It's much more expensive. I don't care. Because, well, listen, the thing is, what we're protecting is the beauty and the redeeming power of art. And it's not about who gets the job. It's about, we are protecting a lineage of art. If we cut a generation of people from learning their craft, you're cutting the rest of the history of that medium away from them. For what? So we have about 1,000 people rotoing the movie. When you convert to 3D, here's the two ways you can do it: quick, or you can do it good. And I chose good. Like Pacific, when I talked to Jim Cameron about conversion, he said, if you take less than 300 days, I'll kill you. Because you have to put the time. And then you really you roto every element by hand. A human made a decision, then you make the decision of depth. We are redoing some sound elements. We are remixing it in Atmos. And we are doing a new color pass, which I've seen some tests, and the tools are much better than when we did the first pass. So I guarantee you one thing, you haven't seen it. Well, when you see it in 3D, it's extraordinary.
Well, the other thing is, I know the film is now, and I wrote this down, but I know the film is now in 4K, and premium HDR by Barco.
Yeah.
So can you talk about how, like, this is basically the version that's going to be in theaters, either in 3D or 4K, is going to be the best looking version of this movie that's ever been?
Well, what happens, you know, Navarro and I love to have information in the blacks. So these are not just flat blacks that are milky. There's information there, and the highlights are not just white. There's information there, and with Barco and with the new capacity to color time this movie, you're gonna see the best contrast, the best saturation. The information is there, and it's a huge leap, and we're betting for it not to just have a second life. We're ready to have a second life because it's relevant today. Because if you can renew it visually and audio, you can attract people that saw it as kids, and they might be now fathers. There might be, I mean, you have an intergenerational possibility to re-experience the movie through a new audience. So we're making everything is. The other day I saw 70 minutes of the movie. We are still away from finishing, and it's very hard for me to watch this movie because I remember everything that was going wrong, everything that didn't happen, everything that went. And it's the first time I've gone, I want to see more. Yeah.
So we actually have a sneak peek of the retrospective documentary that dives into the untold stories of making Pan's Labyrinth and celebrates the film's cultural impact. If we can run that.
We are releasing it on my birthday. 63, motherfucker. Okay, sorry, 63, guys.
So one of the things that I think everyone loves, and pardon me if you haven't seen the movie, cover your ears, the ending is deliberately ambiguous about whether the fantasy is real.
Not to me.
Obviously. But I'm curious if, like, over the past 20 years, if you look at the ending the same way, or because of the 20 years passing, you see the ending in a new light.
No, I think that it's a movie about the clash of two wills. The will of a girl that has no power in the real world, and the will of a fascist that has all the power in the real world but nothing inside. And I still think the girl wins, you know, because I think the moment you sing while they're boiling you alive, you won. You know, the moment you have your last 2 seconds of life to say thank you or no thank you to the choices of life, I think that you win. I mean, look, they tell us what they think we are, but we know what we are, you know? And I think that's a power evil doesn't have. When they tell you, oh, this is inevitable, they say, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. So I still see it that way. I think, and the reason they want to take away art, the reason, look, when they tell us is, you can do it with this, look, Usain Bolt, here's the news, I'm faster than Usain Bolt. I can do the 100 meters faster in a car. And if you need a thing to do art, then you're not an artist. I'm sorry, you have to understand that it comes from your experience, your pain, and I think that this thing, the sacredness of imagery, the sacredness of stories, they want to take it away because they make us more vulnerable, more divided, and more stupid. And they want us that way. So art and beauty and the human spirit are resistant.
I'm not sure if any of the other panelists want to talk about the ending and if their thoughts on it have changed over the 20 years.
I mean, I think for me it's always been ever evolving, and it's a treat to be able to experience it as a child and watch the movie as a child and then see how I've evolved as as I've grown older, and how whatever's been going on for myself, whether it was pain, loss, or heartbreak, and whatever's been going on in the world around me, has shaped the way I view the movie. And it's kind of, I do find it a little bit ironic how when I was first watching the movie while I was promoting it and I was 11 years old, I didn't want to believe that her inner world was real. Like, there was a part of me that was like, well, you know, maybe she was kind of evading herself from reality, truly. But then as I've grown older, as opposed to being jaded, I want to believe even more and more that that was in fact the real world, that that was her reality, and that's how she was in fact not hiding away from the world, but fighting for the world. So for me, I've become more and more of a believer, and just having the luxury of being on that journey as I've grown older and remembering all the different versions of the same movie that I've been able to rediscover is really unique. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited for people to watch it, for people to not just watch it for the first time, but to rediscover the movie and to hopefully maybe discover new things in it, because it's just got so many layers, and that's one of the beauties of it.
Yes.
Yes.
For me, over the past 20 years, it's been you guys actually that have evolved the movie for me in my mind. Doing lots of fan meet and greets over the years, I hear from you one at a time what the movie meant to you, or what it means to you today as opposed to yesterday. I meet a lot of young people who watch the movie as a teenager, and it helped them find their voice and to fight the evils of the world, and to if you feel like the underdog, maybe you have a chance to be the one on top at some point. This movie proved that you can be. So I love seeing that evolution, and also playing the Faun character for this lovely young Ofelia was also I find more mentorship in that now than I used to. At first he was kind of devious and like trying to trick her, but at the same time, no. In the end, he had the ultimate design was to get her where she needed to be, and help her find her way. So thank you for that.
Guillermo, I'm not sure, do you want to add anything?
Well, for me, just to think of the opportunity of 20 years after, and what impact can do to these new generations that hasn't seen it. What is that going to be like? It's a movie that has moved the hearts of so many people, and I feel a great joy to be that I was part of this process. And so I'm looking forward for this re-release 20 years after, and hopefully you get to see the 40 years after, because every generation is going to get something of this. It's full of wisdom, full of sensibility, and the human condition is really a little bit of a representation of our lives, that it's all adversity, and be able to move on, to move forward, and be conquering day by day your stuff. So for me, it's an incredible opportunity for the work that we have done to see it at the light of the people that haven't seen it. And I'm very curious to see what's the impact today, and the living conditions that we had that we're surrounded by.
So I reached out to a few fans of the movie if they wanted to send in some questions, and the first one comes from someone named Eric.
Hey Comic-Con, I'm Eric Kripke. I'm showrunner of The Boys and Supernatural. It's an honor to even be asking Guillermo del Toro a question about Pan's Labyrinth. It's one of my top 5 movies of all time. Sir, you're one of my top 5 favorite directors of all time. Pan's Labyrinth is such a distinctive, unique world. And I'm really curious about how you pull it off, because it's so singular in its vision, and yet I know that filmmaking is a team sport. And I know it's between you, it's between Guillermo Navarro, it's between Eugenio Caballero, the production designer, and I'm sort of curious what that byplay is. Like, how do you communicate what is clearly a pretty specific vision you have in mind, but they also bring lots to the table. And how do you create that byplay and that environment that you all together can create such a singular work of art?
Thank you. Well, it's to me is the shooting of the movie is the game. It's like people think that directing is vision and inspiration. It's a contact sport, making a movie, and you prepare your team. You lay your strategy. You know, I take months and months and months with a very small group many times before anyone comes on board, classifying the shapes, designing this, designing that, and then everybody, the best players in the world come together, and then the strategy is alive, is on the field. You get the beats and the downs and the ups but the visual conception of the movie is stainless steel. It's absolutely structural. These are the shapes, these are the colors, these are the reasons. Then Navarro comes in and says, well, look, I think we can use this light, we can use these lenses, and Guillermo taught me on our first movie together, which was my first movie, Chronos. Guillermo said, look, Guillermo said, wardrobe is set design is cinematography. Cinematography is nothing without those, so they have to all be expressing at the same time. So directing is about what does it mean audiovisually? You know, how does it communicate what the character means? You know, when a monster enters a movie, the way it looks is not just visual. It's telling you what he symbolizes, the depravity, the perversity, the voracity, the greed, and the repugnancy of the pale man are instantly recognizable. You know, and you understand it's institutional. You understand its appetite is not human. These are things you understand because the set design we do is a table full of food, and yet he eats only children. You know? So, you know, it's how do we cipher the storytelling on audiovisual information? So when the team comes, we lay out the strategy and we go, let's go. And it's a contact sport, it's brutal. Filmmaking is not, it's not a prompt. You're not prompting. You are having a full-on battle with reality, with circumstance, with budget, and with adversity. And every day you have to succeed 100% of the time. It's absolutely grueling, but I've been doing it for 30 years. So, you know, I can survive.
The next fan that sent in a question is named Jared.
Hi Stephen, it's Jared Harris. Allegra and I are just on our way to see my younger brother Jamie in the Odyssey. I'm very excited about that. I saw that you're hosting a panel celebrating Pan's Labyrinth at 20, and I just wanted to say to Guillermo, thank you for scaring the shit out of me. I've never been able to look at the palms of my hand the same way. And I have a question. I read somewhere that you said that your dreams inspire your films. And so I'm just wondering whether or not you ever woke up from a nightmare and decided it wasn't scary enough and went back to sleep. All right, you're right.
Well, actually, I have the most boring dreams on earth. My dreams are never interesting. The only dream I have that was similar, and I used it in a movie, is on Frankenstein, the burning archangel. Yeah, the burning angel. I dreamt of a burning human being in front of my bed that got up and came towards the bed and said, I'm alive, and I got scared. And that's where the burning archangel comes from in Frankenstein. Other than that, I dream a lot about zombies chasing me through rooftops and sharks trying to eat me. So I think things are trying to eat me. But they don't influence the movies that much.
The next fan that sent in something is named Andy.
Hello, Comic-Con. I'm Andy Muschietti. Happy birthday to Pan's Labyrinth, an extraordinary movie about sacrifice and disobedience. And my question to Guillermo is, what do you think were your acts of sacrifice and disobedience while making this movie? That's it. That's all I got. Guillermo, tengo tus alfajores, así que te lo voy a dar pronto. Thank you. Ciao.
Andy, Andy and I paint model kits sometimes on Sundays. So I think that the entirety of this movie was sacrifice and disobedience. The entirety of this movie, everything, the 40, 50, 60 times, the thing to do was not to make the movie, and to give up on things. And it was the first time in my life where I said, I don't care, I'm gonna do it exactly as I need it, exactly as I want it. It's not about making friends, it's about making a goddamn movie. And I went against people that I had collaborated in the past. I said, look, you're gonna hate me now, but you will thank me later, because we'll have a better movie. And disobedience means everything. This movie, we were not allowed to fire blanks. We were not allowed to have a fire in the forest. This is a war movie. And we have to find ways to do that with different instruments. Guillermo probably will talk about it. But on the last day, the fire department was not around, and I did blow up a truck. I said, it's too late. Because you know why? Because I'm Mexican. Yeah. We got the job done, goddammit.
I have one more fan question that was sent in from someone named Josh.
Guillermo, it's Josh. ¿Cómo estás, jefe? Orale. Here's the question for you or the rest of the panel, is how do you navigate allowing actors to be able to kind of go off on tangents, knowing that there's magic that can come out of that, and not letting them start to power trip and overwhelm your vision of this story ultimately? There you go.
Cabron. Well, I gave Josh one of his earliest jobs. When he was very, very young, I think it was one of his less than double digits movie, it was Mimic. And I met him, and we became really, really close, really good friends. He's super smart guy. Well, you know, I'll answer very quickly. I don't think, I think the most important thing on the screen is the actor. He's alive. He's the ambassador to the entire audience. I cast eyes, and the eyes of Ivana. When I saw her, I said, those are the eyes of Ofelia. You know, she has to see things. Through the years, I understand one thing. No matter how great the makeup effects are, if the actor in front of the creature doesn't look at the creature as if it's a real living thing, that is a rubber monster. And Ivana had that capacity to react to everything. By the way, Ivana was always an adult. She was always the most intelligent, cerebral, precise actor I've ever worked with. And I think you treat the actors with the love and respect that their magic deserves. And you guide them. But guiding is not dictating. You know, at the same time, you don't want the car to go off the road, and you are the road. So you say, stay on the road and drive as fast as you can.
Doug, this is a question for you. Guillermo creates detailed histories for his monsters. What did he tell you about the faun's life before Ofelia entered the labyrinth?
Oh, well, first of all, he said, study the hindquarter of barn animals. How heady is that? So you want to look at the back of a cow or a goat, see how their hooves meet the ground and how they shake off flies. So if you see me ever going in the movie, that's because of that note. But also he was a trickster, sort of, the faun, and the ambiguity of him, I think, was discussed. Is he good? Is he evil? Don't let that answer out just yet. Until the very end of the movie, you finally see that I was on the good side all along. I think that's the most
Yeah, what we talked is also the faun ages backwards.
That was a great note, yeah.
You know, because we wanted to show him like a foolish old man from the beginning and end up like sexy and young and dangerous.
Right, yeah, because and Ophelia was the key to getting the underworld back to its full life again. And so the Faun was representing the more she believed, the younger and more healthy I got. So my very first scene, I was more arthritic and more older looking, and then the makeup changed incrementally throughout the movie until the very end. I started off grayish and I ended up auburn and gorgeous.
Moving different, yeah.
And moving more fluidly, right.
And then at the end, when he's bringing the greatest proposal, we talked about rock stars. I said, more Bowie, less Jagger, more Jagger, less Bowie.
Yes.
Ivana, I'm sorry. Ophelia's defiance, refusing the Faun's final task, is the moral crux of the film. Did you understand that choice as heroic, tragic, or both when you were shooting it?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it was heroic in every possible way. And, you know, Guillermo did an amazing job at prepping me. And kind of going back to the question we were just answering before, I think one of the reasons I was able to really put my best foot forward and really want to be able to perform, for lack of a better word, is because he gave me so much trust. Mind you, Guillermo knows exactly what he wants always. Like, remember, he walked around with his notebook, and you know, you would never fail because he always had your back, and he'd always end up executing his vision. But in saying that, he would just give me and the cast so much trust, and he would treat me in a way as an adult, so then I felt at freedom to really contribute to the project in my own kind of way. So that was really that was really interesting for me as an actor. And just to answer your question in that regard, I do think that what Ophelia was doing was definitely heroic.
And we wrote her biography together.
We did.
Yeah.
We did so much prep. And the thing is, and we've spoken about this a lot, but on set, it was crunch time. And we just, you know, there were so many difficulties, so many challenges. Doug was obviously wearing all his prosthetics and the costume, and there was lack of time sometimes. And we needed to make sure that when I was on that set, I could execute, and I know exactly what the vision was and what I was expected to do. So we did a lot of prep. We worked on the biography. You gave me a lot of material too, comic books. I remember Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, and Grave of the Fireflies. So there was a lot for me to study and for me to really be able to understand that level of depth that was required for Ophelia, because I was a child. I mean, I didn't know that amount of sorrow, and somehow I was able to connect to that via all the prep that we did.
And Nausicaa is that type of character.
Yeah, much like that sort of monsters versus humanity and finding that compassion.
Yeah.
I want to say something about her, because for us, the film language of the movie was very strong and very particular. The camera was always searching and moving and finding, connecting dots, etc. And the fact that she understood her space in the set and the proportion in the frame allowed us actually to keep that level of scrutiny on the shots that we were performing that were very, very elaborate. And without her understanding that, the movie would have lost a lot of its formal quality of storytelling. So this was a little girl, you know? And suddenly we would throw her, well, now the fairies are around you, and now this insect just landed, and now this, all those things you had to interact with, and the camera's moving, on top of it. And so it was remarkable that she allowed us, not knowing it, to keep going in the very, very complicated task.
This was your first starring role or second starring role, right?
Yes, starring role it was, it's like second or third.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had done a few movies before Pans,
Yeah,
but
like the Fragile and...
Yeah, and I remember, I think I was doing another movie and you had been inquiring about my job in that movie. But yeah, I had done a fair amount of movies before Pans. I think it was like 6 movies, but Pan's Labyrinth was definitely the one that really instilled in me that discipline and sort of that respect for the craft, because the amount of learning that I did and just learning how to behave on a set was course.
You were the most serious actor in the bunch. Truly.
Guillermo Navarro, the film uses, oh, I'm so sorry for interrupting the applause. The film uses a very deliberate color coding, cold blues and greens for the real fascist world, warm golds for the fantasy world. How early in prep did that palette get locked in, and how did you execute it practically, like with lighting? Like, how did you do it practically on set?
Oof. No, the task was very hard. So we had done a prior movie, right? That is The Devil's Backbone. That there's no Pan's Labyrinth without Devil's Backbone. And so we got our feet wet and working in Spain, etc., etc. And we pushed as much as we could. And then in Pan's Labyrinth, we excelled at really the use of the language. And so in terms of how we accomplish all these lighting situations and differentiating the narrative of the fantasy world and the real fascist world, and we came up with different color decision also with that based on the emotions really of what was happening. There were many ingredients that we have to be considering all the time. Fortunately, this movie was shot in film in 35 millimeters, yes. And that allowed us, I don't think you can do what we did in digital.
No.
I mean, many will discuss this against, but I think that the world of darkness and the things that you were referring in the beginning of how there's information, it's a little more than information. It's actually pieces of light that actually help define the darkness, no? And so we were happy with what we were doing. We were enthusiastic about the day, and we were learning as we were going as well, because we were exploring things that we had not done before.
No, and most things were done by hand.
Huh?
We forget, and I was watching the movie the other day with the 3D, and this is ridiculously elaborate. We fabricated the furniture. We fabricated the props, because the dining room of the captain had to be exactly the same shape and form than the dining room of the paleman. The bed where they lie is full of symbols of the old tree, of the faun. So we handmade, I mean, it's absolutely insane. We handmade basically everything in this movie. So we were able to color code the color of the wood. It's not warm wood, and the furniture is cold wood. It's grayish, greenish, blah. So we were able to color code everything.
So we do have another video, and it's Pan's Legacy. Pan's Legacy featurette. If we could roll that.
You know, the beauty of, I think, art saves your life sometimes. You know? Sometimes, especially when you're young, you're vulnerable and you're down and you're crushed, and in comes a piece of music, a song, a movie, an illustration, an image, a character that tells you, hang on, it gets better, you know? And this movie connects like that with artists. It's a movie that inspires artists and inspires sometimes them to continue creating art and find their own path. And I think it's the movie that does that for whatever reason, and I'm very grateful for that.
You can actually see more fan stories and join the conversation yourself with the hashtag #PansLegacy. So the next thing is, I asked our panelists to each pick a clip from the movie that had a memory for them or a story that they wanted to share. And up first, Doug Jones. If we could run Doug's clip. So, Doug, why did you pick this clip?
Well, because that was one of my first scenes that I filmed in this movie, and talking about what we just talked about with the preparation that goes into a character. First of all, when Guillermo offered this role to me, and I heard that it was going to be in the Spanish language, I freaked out and said, "You got the wrong guy." And he said, "Dougie, you can count to 10 for all I care. I'll double over it later, but you're playing the Faun." So I couldn't leave you with me counting to 10. I just knew that if I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that would be a lip sync issue. So I thought I'd better buckle down and learn the language. And I think you knew I was going to do that, probably. So I learned the language of the film, and I was able to. Now, what you heard was a voiceover. It was a Spanish actor who could hear the nuances that I couldn't hear. But I got to set the tone and the pace of his dialogue. And I was terrified and so nervous about this. I was sure that I was going to ruin this beautiful film for him. Oh gosh. And so that first scene, I got very little direction from Guillermo as we were filming it. About a week into filming, after this scene was done, he approached me on set one day between shot setups. And he said, "Dougie, I know you have not heard much from me, my friend, as a director." And he said, "It's because you're getting it right." Oh. Thank you.
I was lying.
I do wonder if your original voice exists somewhere, what you did, because he was doing it phonetically, word by word, so that I could also perform opposite him, and I wonder if that exists somewhere.
It sounded like an American tourist ordering beer. Por favor, una sorpresa.
And here I thought I was doing such a good job until you said that. Thanks.
He said instead of negligencia, he says nalgagencia. So
I can hear the difference.
We have to dub it.
We need that version.
Guillermo del Toro, you're up next. Let's run his clip.
Well, I love. We knew from the beginning, like when you're making a movie, you cannot make everything the way. You cannot shoot. Some scenes you have to shoot fast. Some you have to give them the time. And when we were talking about this scene, we always knew we were going to have to give it many days, and it was always the centerpiece of the film. It's to me, you have to have the audience in your mind. For example, you see the fascist captain, right? And he's Sergi Lopez, amazing performance, all contained. But then he grabs a bottle and destroys the face of a person, destroys the face of a man with that bottle. That makes the audience from then on be afraid of him. And they say, this movie is serious. It means business. Otherwise, you have a guy with a bad temper. That's it. So I knew that this came in the middle of the movie. And you have to understand that her tests required her to be very brave. And this was the set piece that was going to hold the first part of the movie and was going to give fuel to the second part of the movie. And I always just run it in my head and say, well, what am I feeling as an audience? And so we shot many scenes in one morning, half a day, quarter of a day, in order to give this scene many days. And we knew that we were going to need that. And it's memorable to me because it's sort of the signature of the film. You know, and this is one of the scenes where I had a huge fight with the makeup effects company, because originally the pale man had the face of an old man, and it was just that. And I said, no, we're gonna erase the face. And back then they got really angry, and they said, you don't. Sorry about kids, cover your ears. They said, you don't care about our job, and I said, or work, and I said, I don't, actually. I care about the movie. And it got really violent, but it became the signature piece of the film, and the way that character was designed was very haphazard, very beautiful, very instinctive, and it ended up being that, so that's why I wanted it.
And of all the characters I've played in my entire career, this is the one that I get people coming up to me to this day going, "Hi, that guy Nick!"
And by the way, when Doug and I talked, I said, you're playing both characters, and he said, you cheap bastard. And I said, it's not that, it's the Faun disguised as the pale man.
Yes.
Because he's trying to trick Ofelia into the wrong choice. So there was a reason.
And he is a cheap ass.
I am a cheap ass.
Ivana, let's run Ivana's clip. so the reason you picked the clip is...
Well, it's actually funny because it's pretty on theme with the things we've been speaking about today. I picked that clip because for me as an actor, it was a turning point. So I had, as we just spoke, had done a few movies before Pan's Labyrinth, and when you're a child, you're encouraged in order to perform and for them to draw emotion out of you to use substitution. So they make you think about like all these horrible things, which is not necessarily a really pleasant process. But with Guillermo, for the first time ever, I was able to connect so deeply to the story and to Ofelia that I was just truly able to channel her and to be present and to feel all those feelings that she was feeling, which now as an adult, I actually find quite remarkable because I hadn't gone through that level of pain and sorrow. I think that comes as you grow up and as you become an adult and you experience pain, you're able to deepen that emotional toolkit that you can then apply to your craft. But I didn't have that back then. And when it happened and when it all clicked, I remember thinking, oh, this is what it's actually about. Yeah. This is addictive. Like, this is what it feels, this is the point of what we do and of performing. So from then on, truly, I think that's when I fell in love with acting and when I decided that that's what I wanted to do because I wanted to chase that feeling.
And that was your audition scene?
It was also my audition scene.
That's what,
it was a very special scene.
Read all the actresses coming for Ofelia, read that scene. And I remember you read it, and all of us were crying. And I said, hired.
You might have been crying a little bit, maybe a little bit.
One more audition, yeah.
Guillermo Navarro, could we run his clip, please? And so what was it about this clip?
Wow, I remember so many things.
Yeah, no,
Okay. The original set for the Todd scene was gonna be bigger.
A giant chamber.
And Todd, when we started playing with him, or they were demonstrating it to us, it was very heavy and limited, no? So we canceled the big set.
Yeah.
And we did the opposite thing, which is now put him in a tight environment where he couldn't really move because he couldn't really move. But now he's contained by this set that was sort of a tunnel, right? Full of mud and that where the camera had to fly through things. It was actually a pretty complicated set that we could cut in half and be able to shoot like the shots that you just see, the parallel shots. So I thought it was that kind of thing that we were connected with. Okay, we don't have the solution we wanted, and we turn it around and we create. So let's do the opposite. Now let's bring it to a set where it's tight and there's no room for him.
Yeah, but the movie dictates itself. If you learn to talk to the movie, and it's a contact sport, that's what I mean. You think, oh, they planned it like that. No, it happened like that. But what is remarkable for me of this is, this was originally just a tunnel she was gonna go by and get to that giant chamber where the frog was. And if she goes by, no, that's not a problem, it's a couple of shots, but it's a whole sequence. So we had to cut the set as we shot it, destroy it, and Guillermo had to light it now, not for her to go by, but for her to have a whole scene with it.
Incredible.
What the hell?
And that's who got the Oscar.
By the way, if I may, first Mexican cinematographer in the history of cinema to win the Oscar. I want to tell you, he doesn't like, you have to understand this, wherever you come from, whatever is told to you that is against you, you can power through. When Guillermo and I came to the United States early in the 90s, Guillermo went to a talent agency for cinematographers, and they said to him, why would we hire a Mexican? We already have a gardener. So what do you say to that? I won't say it because audiences are under 18 years of age. But I say, you know what I'm thinking. First cinematographer to win the Oscar from Mexico.
Guillermo, I am curious.
Hold one second. Les voy a contar eso. Okay, I have a question for you guys. So we did the Devil's Backbone. Then we did Pan's Labyrinth. And this was meant to be a triptych, a 3-piece history of Spain. And would you guys watch the third one?
We will try and make it.
All right, we'll try to make it.
This is my last question for you, if you don't mind. I know that you have a hell of a collection. You like to keep things from set. What did you actually take home from this set?
That's a very good question. I actually kept the original book that with the drawings of Ofelia, and I kept the monolith with the eye in it. And it was not a movie I kept a lot of things off because the experience was so terrifying. I mean, the movie, you must understand, I didn't know. I said, there are certain movies I've done that I say, this is my last movie. And I'm gonna put everything on it. The first one was the last one, Kronos. Then came this one. Then came Shape of Water. You know, and I said, that's it. I'm retiring after this, but this one I'm gonna get right. And I didn't keep many things, but I kept those things, those two things, and I will never, ever in my life part ways with those, ever.
Before this panel ends, I'd actually like to invite Eddie back on stage for something special.
Eddie.
He's coming from the right.
One of the things I think that draws us all together, and has since probably back in the caveman days, was the ability to tell stories. And stories continue to be told, even if they're being told on paper, or film, or radio. But in the end, the story is what's the important component, and it is the thing that brings the magic, the monsters, and the myths. Guillermo del Toro has given us stories that not only look at humanity, but also teach us about compassion, resilience. And the interesting thing is that we learn that sometimes from the monsters that we meet. They sometimes are the ones that can really show us what our humanity is. He has been someone that has championed so many art forms, like comics and animation, just as much reverence as he has put into cinema. His stories have given countless of us the courage to embrace our own imaginations and to remind us that it's not just about entertainment, but also about empathy, about feeling for others. So, on behalf of the Board of Directors of Comic-Con, it is truly my honor to present Mr. Guillermo del Toro with the Inkpot Award.
You know, I don't have one of these. Now I do. And it's really an award I wanted to very, very much. I've been coming to Comic-Con before it was this Comic-Con. It was like a big dealer's room, and the spirit back then was us, a bunch of us believing that comics were a genuine form of expression. And I still think the same, and I think that the reason they are is because they're always in the hands, it's like rock and roll. They're always in the hands of people that want to shout something strong. There is big corporations, big music publishing houses, but there's always a streak of independence that want to do something with them. And I remember back then you had the greats, you had Neil Adams, you had Will Eisner walking around with people that were coming up, Scott Morse and so forth, you know, and Comic Con still that. Comic Con is still that. There is a large component that is about things that are established, but there's a large component, and many of them are in this room, of people that are doing their own independent thing. So I accept this because I believe in comics as a form of storytelling that no matter how big it gets in terms of media and properties and all that, it always belongs to people with a genuine story to tell. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Real quick, I just want to make sure. I also just want to give a reminder, as you, that the 20th anniversary of Pan's Labyrinth is in theaters on Guillermo's birthday, October 9th. In stunning 4K, premium HDR by Barco, and in 3D overseen by Guillermo himself.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out.